We've been talking about polls throughout this Democratic presidential primary race, but we're now getting to the point where they start to matter, especially as we're now just months away from the first caucuses and primaries. Especially they matter if you're the one-time and potentially still front-runner in this race, Joe Biden. I'm going to break down some of the latest polls and with 4 key numbers that let us know where Joe Biden stands as we now look at this race. The first number, 4.4. That's Joe Biden's lead in the national polls in the Real Clear Politics average. Now, the good news for Biden is that his own vote share in that Real Clear Politics average is still fairly consistent throughout this race. It's been largely hovering in the upper 20s to even low 30s. The bad news is that his lead of 4.4 is actually down from a high of 27 earlier this year. It's one thing to be consistent in your vote share, but we're seeing a lot of the consolidation of the other vote around Elizabeth Warren at this point. So if you're Joe Biden, you eventually want to get higher than that 30% that he's been averaging. The next number is 18. That's Joe Biden's stand in the latest Iowa poll from Suffolk University and USA Today. Now, that's his lowest lead in an Iowa poll in a number of weeks, and it's just a point ahead of Elizabeth Warren. Now, all of the advantages Joe Biden has in this race, especially this idea that he's the inevitable frontrunner, it all goes out the window if he doesn't win Iowa, and his campaign knows that. That's why we're going to see him stepping up the pace of his campaigning in Iowa in the coming weeks. An important third place standing in that new Iowa poll was Pete Buttigieg. He's now at 13%. That's ahead of Bernie Sanders, who had been sort of the consistent third place frontrunner along with Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden. So keep an eye on Buttigieg. The next number in this race is 50%. That is where Joe Biden stood among African-American voters nationally in the latest Quinnipiac University national poll. Why is that number important? Hillary Clinton won the 2016 Democratic nomination because she absolutely trounced Bernie Sanders in more than a dozen states where African-American voters made up the majority of the vote in a primary or a caucus. Joe Biden being at 50% of the vote nationally among African-Americans means he is still very much in the driver's seat to win the Democratic nomination as long as he maintains that advantage, especially in a crowded field. We know South Carolina is always talked about as important. It's 4th in the order in this Democratic nomination calendar. If Joe Biden hangs around 50% and can manage to hold that vote in a state like South Carolina, it's going to be an important signal for Super Tuesday states going forward. Last number is 70, and that number continues to rise. Why is that important? 70 is the number of head-to-head polls nationally that showed Joe Biden beating Donald Trump in the general election matchup. Now, if you're the Biden campaign, you've been making a number of arguments to voters throughout this primary. One of them is that he's the best candidate to beat Donald Trump. And so more and more we're hearing the Biden campaign emphasize that specific number, being the point being that he, despite all the doubts that have been raised by his shaky debate performances, by his slow fundraising numbers, is still the most important number. We hear all the time from voters in early primary states that their number one criteria for Democratic candidate at this point is beating Donald Trump. So expect to hear more and more of that from Biden as he goes forward in this campaign. And that's your breakdown.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.